Hello, hello, hello. Are you there? Can you see me? Can you hear me? I can't see you. I don't think I can see you. No, I can't see you. Can you see me? Oh, there we go. Can you see me now? Can you hear me? Oh, good. Excellent. Hello, my name is Charlie Ryan, and I'm here today to talk about video etiquette for interviews. And that is the way so many interviews have started over the last 10 to 12 months. I want you to remember that first impressions count. They make a big difference across any form of engagement that you've got with people, whether it's on the phone, whether it's face to face, or whether it's on video. So I'd like to welcome you to our video etiquette business engagement workshop. So people make up their minds very, very fast about you. That first 3 seconds, 3 seconds to gain someone's attention, 30 seconds to maintain their interest, and 3 minutes before they've formed an opinion of you. So what were you thinking when I first came on the video or didn't come on the video? What were your thoughts? What were those first 3 seconds? You were thinking, does she know what she's doing? Has she done video before? Why can't I see her? Why is she talking to me and I can't see her? All of those areas are what you are being judged on video in that first 3 seconds. Make sure that the impression you give is exactly what you want to give, because otherwise people are judging you on the wrong things. There are some really easy things which can overcome some of the video interviewing things that people fail on. And we've seen a lot of them. Okay. So even how I started this isn't really the worst of what we come across. Your engagement in video is very important. And although I'm pulling up here some of the face-to-face influences on engagement, i.e. 55% body language, remember, over video, you haven't got all of that body language. It's still not the same as being sat in front of somebody. And again, when you're on the phone, we have those percentages change a lot. We drop to 5% body language. So I wonder what the video influences will be. I wonder what those video percentages will be. There's not enough data yet to tell us. They will come out. There is no doubt after the last year that there will be a pie chart where the differences on the percentages will influence or show us the influence of what a video engagement's like, because it's not all body language, it's not all voice tone, and it's not all words. It's likely to be a mix between the two. One of the biggest things that you're missing on body language between face to face and video is the eye contact. It's one of the biggest things that you're missing, as well as, I guess, the feel of the presence of somebody there. So you have to find a way of making sure that you're delivering that to the best possible way. And most of the time, that means looking at the camera. Now, sometimes the camera is in a different place on the screen. It's not where you're maybe reading from the screen, but it's very important that you set yourself up to look at the camera. Video etiquette, we have a number of different areas to it. So it is like any other interview in what you do. It really is. So whatever you would prepare or however you would prepare for an interview, you have to prepare for a video interview. Different prep, granted, but prep all the same. And the more prepared you are, the more likely you're going to form that opinion or allow somebody to form the opinion you want them to form of you, rather than that haphazard approach of the start to this video interview or video meeting. Then there's the video interview itself, and then there are the post actions following the video meeting. So again, it's very similar to doing a normal interview in terms of the prep and the post work that you should do. Video meetings need a lot more thought. No, probably not a lot more thought, but certainly different thought. So like you would prepare to go along on a video, go along on an interview to see a company and engage with them, you think about how to get there, you think about the journey, you think about the transport, you think about the time, You do a lot of things to make sure that you are going to get there on time and again, create the best possible impression. But what about a video? You know, it's at home generally, it's there. I mean, you don't really need to allow a lot of time, right, to get there. But if you don't invest in the pre video tools, time, planning, then this is where the opinions go horribly wrong. And interestingly, you know, it's not just about being prepared so that it doesn't go wrong. It's also being able to cope when it does go wrong. And I'll talk you through that in a minute. But let's just take some of the things that have come up on the screen. The hardware tool. Please, please use a computer rather than a phone. I will come on to phones in a minute, but we have some very interesting experiences on phones and it's not brilliant. If you have to use a phone, it does need to be a last resort. Think about the software that you're being asked to use. So there are various types of software out there. I'm on Zoom at the moment, but Microsoft Teams is something that's very, very popular with companies. Odro is also being used as another tool. There are lots of video platforms that companies are now starting to engage and embrace. What's very important is that you have taken the time to understand how that particular software works in line with the mode that you're using. So have you got the app? Do you need to download the app? Do you need to register first? Please make sure that your computer is registered so that it recognizes both the video and the sound through that particular piece of software. Can you think about your backdrop as well? What is behind you? It's not ideal to have your bed behind you and just not look professional. So you know, it is easy to just hang a sheet from a ceiling or just make something look so that you've got a better backdrop. And then also think about what you're wearing against that backdrop. Think about your environment. So I know when you go on a meeting, obviously the environment is created for you by the employer or by the company. But this is now an environment that you have to create. And I'm not just talking about the backdrop, I'm talking about things like interruptions, sounds. Can you hear the doorbell? Are there animals? You need to create an environment that is worthy of a meeting and an interview. And that would mean no interruptions. So again, another reason not to use your phone is if a phone call comes in the middle of it, then it will cut you off the video, all right, and then it will bring you back. And I think the biggest thing is whichever software or tool that you're using in terms of hardware or software platform, please practice with a family friend. Get them to log in. You know, do both an interview with them, but it doesn't have to be a whole interview. It really is just about making sure that when you go onto the platform or the software, it works. They can see you, they can engage with you, they can hear you. The rules for the phone, if you are going to use a phone, I do appreciate that not everybody has a computer and maybe everything is done on the phone. So first things first, I have to tell you, the amount of times I've done a phone interview recently and well, over the last year, and honestly, I get seasick. I really do. People are holding their phone, it's moving. And for somebody that's static interviewing you at the other end, it just feels like we're on a journey. We're like rocking from side to side because of how your phone is moving. So it is a terrible experience for the interviewer. So if you do need to use your phone, please get it onto a hard surface and have it propped up. And the other thing you need to do is put it to landscape. Landscape, being propped up landscape will mean the person gets to see you properly. Because one of the most challenging things we have as well is that we get to see people come on a video interview and we get to see this. We get to see their mouth and their nose, or their forehead and their nose, or their forehead and their eyes. That is no good. And again, first impressions, bringing you back. Honestly, not a good first impression because all you're telling me is you haven't practiced. So we will rule you out for these reasons. Very, very important. You are putting the time in to prepare. So get your phone on landscape, get it on a platform or something that it can stand up on, and sit 1 meter back from it so that we can see you properly. Have a headset or an earpiece connected. That will reduce any environmental noise. Also, it means you are heard more effectively at the other side because there's not air between you and the mic that would normally maybe be on the laptop or the phone. So there's just not those more environmental noises. So please get a headset. It's worth an investment. The software required on the phone might be quite different. Even if you've tested it on a computer, you might want to sort it on your phone as a backup. So please make sure that any software that you're intending to use, you've tested for use on your phone as well. And the ideal, obviously, is to have another phone to hand or a tablet or something so that if the phone dies or anything happens, then you do have some backup technology. I think the most important thing to be aware of here is the fact how you cope with any of these things going wrong. And that actually is also helping us form an opinion of you. So we have people come on who, yeah, okay, it doesn't always work. It's not perfect. I mean, technology never will be. And some of it won't be down to you. I mean, all the preparation in the world sometimes just doesn't deliver the best performance because things go wrong. But now let's think about this. What sort of person are you when things go wrong? Do you panic? Do you get frustrated? Do you start saying things like, I don't know why this is happening. I've practiced. I don't know. What are you like? Because that is really, really important. People that feel harassed, frustrated, stressed about technology going wrong very rarely get moved on to the next stage in an interview. Because what you're telling us is that you don't cope with the unknown in a calm way. And all the skill in the world won't make up for the fact that you're not calm when we need you to be. Because things go wrong in the workplace all the time, all the time. But we want someone who's very calm in their voice, even if they're saying very similar things to what I just said earlier. So maybe you say more something like, can you just bear with me a minute? I'd like to check my settings. I know you can see me, but I can't hear you. So if you bear with me, can we check this by me phoning you? There are lots of ways to handle the unknown, but staying in control and calm is one of the most important things because it is one of the biggest reasons you get rejected, much, much bigger than the fact that you might be on a phone that's having me wobble all over the place, or you might have started the interview the way I started this particular meeting. You are far more likely to be rejected in not being able to stay calm in the face of adversity. We've covered a few of these already, but please also do things like have a water bottle to hand if you'd like a drink, not a glass. You really do not want the chances of anything spilling. And again, when you're around technology, that can go horribly wrong, much worse than if you spilt it just over a desk in an interview. Also, please think about your greeting. How are you introducing yourself? So the minute the person comes on, you know who they are because it's generally on the screen, on any video software. But also, you know who you're going to be meeting. So you've probably done your LinkedIn research before and you've got a photo of them, so you know it's them. So your greeting. Good morning, I'm Charlie. You must be Stephen. Or good afternoon. Nice to meet you, Stephen. What is your greeting? Be confident. I know we can't shake a hand. I know we're not in front of them like we were before. I know we're in a different world, but this is your way to eventually getting in front of them. And video interviews are absolutely going to be the way forward for the first stage for most companies, even when we go back to a normal office environment. So it is very important you're getting past this stage in order to get in front of them and present yourself the way you want to. Don't forget that camera eye level. I appreciate that I haven't got the camera eye level right now because of the way my system is set up, but hopefully you will still feel like I'm looking at the camera and looking at you. But camera eye level is best because that will help your posture for a video interview. And then do things like check that your microphone's on when you're on a headset, or even if you're not, sometimes the microphone will switch off. The more you use video software, the better you get at it. You know what to check. You become a bit of an IT. Oh, I'll check this, then I'll check that. And it is better. The more familiar you can get, the better. Video interviews, they're not a way of ruling you out. They are a way of ruling yourself in. And it isn't difficult to get ruled in through a video interview if you follow some of the basic rules. That's all I want for you. Present yourself. If you think back to that slide, 3 seconds to gain attention, 30 seconds to maintain interest, and 3 minutes to form an opinion. Present yourself in a way that you know what opinion is being formed of you. You are controlling that complete opinion. I just want to briefly talk about desperation versus desire. I had somebody come on an interview yesterday. It was a video interview, a fresh graduate. And he was lovely. I mean, he really was. He was extremely engaging, very polite. Yeah, just a few really good things about him. However, his desire for the job was really overruled by desperation. And there is a very fine line. So as much as I think it's really important for you to get across who you are, what you stand for, I think it's also very important to not oversell yourself into something that you don't even know enough about. I asked this candidate what questions he had for me about the role and or the company, and that was how I started the meeting. And he was so quick to just talk about some of the words that were in the job spec about problem solving and how good he was at it. And I mean, I really did feel for him in terms of I understood what he was trying to do, but I think all I really needed him to do was listen. That was the most important thing. Listen to what I asked and be ready to answer what I asked. If he didn't have any questions, that would have been fine as well. But to go headlong into telling me all about himself when I wasn't ready for that, really, for me, sort of put him on the side of desperation versus desire. And desire is what we're looking for. The other thing I want to talk about from that particular meeting is when I did say to him, what information do you know about us, or what information have you got about us as a company that you'd like to share with me in terms of the research that you've done? He started with, well, what you lot do. Now, I think it's really important to understand there's nothing wrong, in essence, with saying you lot. Of course there isn't. But there is in an interview. It is not business language. It is not to the standard of professional business language. So it is really important that you are aware of who you're talking to, who your audience is, because this audience judges. And that was the biggest reason he didn't get through to the next stage. And he did have the degree we wanted. He had the engagement to a certain extent. He had the enthusiasm, but there were just things that did not work for us. Because if someone doesn't understand the kind of language and professional edge that we're looking for in an interview, it's unlikely we can train it in somebody at this point. So I know that we can get very comfortable and informal in our everyday world with our friends, and even interviews have possibly become more informal. But what I am saying to you is, in interviews, you are still being judged. And if anything, companies are really relishing the fact that you're more informal because they believe they get to the heart of you. But please remember, you still have to have the different personas. We all have a work persona and a home persona. The closer they're linked, the better. But just make sure that you are delivering to the standard that a company is looking for. The video interview is no different to the other interviews where you should be establishing whether or not the company and the job is right for you. This will also give you confidence. It is important you feel empowered to deliver in an interview and to walk away knowing whether or not you want the opportunity. Remember, I appreciate I might have said there's desperation versus desire, but also empower yourself. You might think you want the job, but you don't know enough about it yet. So please walk away from the interview having established that you now know enough to go, yes, I want to know more, or I'd like to be considered, etc. Or, do you know what? That's not a company for me. That boss, they're just not right for me. So think about that. Make sure you're asking the right questions to be able to walk away feeling empowered. And then there are the post-video meeting actions. So like any interview or meeting you go for, you must follow up. Just because it was done by video doesn't remove, in essence, some of the basic business etiquette that we would expect. So what actions have they asked you to take? or what's next. If there's anything you said you're going to do, do it. Please make sure, even if there aren't actions, you do a thank you email for their time. Please make sure as well that you follow up. So after your thank you email, if you know when you expect to hear, you do chase and you close it down and ask for feedback. Okay. And finally, the last thing I want you to be doing, although you can do this first, is I'd like you to evaluate your own performance in the meeting. So how was your greeting? How did technology work? How did you handle it when it went wrong? What questions could you have handled better? What questions do you wish you'd be more prepared for? Be careful you're not over prepared for an interview. And finally, when somebody asks you about a company or the website or what research that you've done, please don't stop pulling up the website and reading it, because I had that 2 days ago as well. And I did stop the interview. If you are not prepared, be honest. Do not try and read something while you were there on the interview, because the interviewer can tell. So it's really important. We can tell if you're reading, we can tell if you're copying something out. There are some questions that you can never ask at an interview. Don't ask a question they have already covered, but you could ask the interview maybe more about themselves, because if you ask a question they've already covered the answer to, then you haven't been listening, and then you feel the need to ask the question for the sake of it. It's very important that you operate with a sense of intelligence in these meetings, because again, that's what people are buying. If you see the meeting as a mantra of what you have to ask or what you have to do, and you're not reacting to things going on in the meeting, then again, they are the people who get ruled out. So be in the meeting, be in the zone, as I call it. Don't be thinking about anything else. Don't be trying to remember or think what you've prepared. Even if they ask you a question that's familiar, don't worry about going, what was my answer to that? Think in the moment, be honest, be true to yourself, and you will be absolutely fine. Being over prepared actually is a way to fail. But make sure you've done your research and you can ask the right questions. Think about your dress code. I already talked about the backdrop. So if I was wearing white today, that would be a real problem for this backdrop, as I'm sure you'd agree. So think about how you dress. There is a little bit more informality. It's very hard to tell you how to dress because it depends on the company, it depends on the audience, it depends on the business, it depends on the industry. So it depends on so many things in terms of the audience expectation. But do your research. That's how you will establish what's important to wear. I would suggest that I'm not dressed particularly well for interview today. In my world, I think I would be expected to wear a jacket more often than not, but there are a lot of worlds that isn't expected. Some are more formal than others. The one thing I will say to you is in today's informal world, I have been quite impressed with the number of people that on video have made an effort for us wearing a shirt and tie still, and girls wearing a blouse and jacket. So I have to say, just that sense of effort has impressed me. I've not needed them to wear that kind of outfit. That's not been essential or even necessary. And most of our companies now would be open neck shirts. I very rarely see a tie worn these days. However, that being said, you do have to do your research in the organization. Remember the Chanel phrase, I love this, let the clothes allow you to be remembered, but don't let the clothes be what is remembered. Okay? And finally, if you've got any questions, then feed them through to us in terms of your individual experiences. We are going to try and offer you some video interviews. Won't be this term. We're hoping maybe at the back of next term to be able to offer you some practice. So if you are interested, please do feed in and we'll see how many we can do. Like I say, it's likely to be July, but even if it just gave you 20 minutes of checking out technology and practicing your greeting, we'd love to be able to do that for you, and we could put a couple of questions to you as well. Video interviewing absolutely is going to be the way forward for at least the first stage for 90% of job applications moving forward. So please invest the time in creating your own confidence so that you know you can come onto a video prepared, in control, and even if it goes wrong, what you're going to say. So be ready to present yourself on video, to allow the opinion that's going to be formed about you after 3 minutes to be the one you want, and more importantly, to secure the next stage in the interview process so you get in to see that company and you get to be the best version of you. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope all of this helped, and get practicing.